Hi, everybody. Welcome to Discover College Soccer. Today, I'm lucky enough to be joined by Coach Ryan up in Roanoke. Welcome, Coach.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and again, I appreciate what you're doing for the game as well.
I appreciate that. Nice Division III men's program. I got a buddy who went through the program just a few years before you did, so I'm sure we'll dig into some. You've got a good handle on things as both an alum and a longtime coach there. One thing I'll say. So I'm down in Bradenton. Obviously, we just had the the ECNL men's showcase down here. The women's were this past weekend. I mean, it is Disney's this coming weekend. It's just, tournaments abound this day, these months. So, as a high level D3 program, like where are you guys right now in terms of your class of 25 recruiting? Are you looking just at 26s and 25s are done? Like what's your kind of normal timeline?
Yeah, so we're still in this year's class. We're still working hard on the 25s. I would say we're a little bit past halfway through between commitments we have and sort of goals and needs, and so yeah, still have some spaces available, and they're still working on some recruits. We have a camp coming up in 2 weeks as well that will allow us to look at some players interested in the college or that we've shown some interest in, and I think that's probably about pretty typical for us here. I usually kind of tell recruits that for us anyway, and I think this is maybe Division III across the board, maybe some a little different than others, but like we kind of find it in three pools of I'll call it commitments or decisions or in the process where the first one would be like someone that we're on fairly early into the junior year, into summer before the senior year, and they've already kind of narrowed their school down. Their process is far along enough where they've decided I want to make a decision, and those would be maybe commitments in the early decision process, which would be early fall of the senior year or before. That's probably the smaller pool of players that we get in these three segments. The second one being kind of right now, maybe a little bit earlier. We're bringing players in throughout the fall for recruiting visits throughout our season. Not able to get on the road as much maybe during the fall, but um, season ends, showcase tournaments every weekend from unfortunately the last day you play and through right now, and so another pool kind of in that timeline of the admissions timeline where they're getting their financial aid packages back. Second pool, maybe November through December, and then there's usually a third wave, which would be February, March, where we pick up some players. And to be fair, these are a lot of times some of our best guys, and a lot of times some of the players that are still unsure of their fit and maybe are holding out for Division I opportunities and looks and haven't quite found the perfect fit for themselves. And so, yeah, so we're active in it right now. We're about halfway through, maybe a little bit past halfway through our 25 class, but probably about where we usually are.
Okay. Well, we talk about, tournament season here. What are some of your favorite places to go see players as you're getting folks interested or you're just finding people? Where's that happening?
Yeah, I mean, I think all of it, it's pretty, as you know, it's pretty like segmented now, and so there's a lot of leagues and a lot of different things. And to be fair, I don't prefer that. That being said, we're pretty fortunate here in our location that we can see teams nationally regionally, meaning, MLS Next usually comes through Maryland at least once a year with their events between Richmond and in different parks in North Carolina. ECNL holds showcases or playoffs there, and those are great events for us as well. And then we're also, we're open to looking for players anywhere that they might be, and that could be anything from the EDP type stuff that usually runs more New Jersey and north to some of the USYS stuff that still goes on down south. And so, yeah, kind of all over the place. I think we'll try to hit anything that's big, that's regional every time. Certainly in my recruiting lifespan, I've been probably all over the country, and we'll pick and choose from our position here in Roanoke what will be best. Always you draw that Florida, that Bradenton, the Sarasota, or the Orlando draw in the office for who's going to make that trip. That's always a good one when the events are down there as well. And so, yeah, kind of try to hit as much as we can. That's both within the resources that we have, but also like that we feel can be productive for us.
Okay. And you mentioned you got a camp coming up. I guess how important are those camps in your process? Do you guys work other outside camps as well? How many do you do? What's that look like?
Yeah, so I would say it's a pretty important piece to our process. I mean, I think that a lot of colleges are getting that way, obviously, or have been. I've been running camps both here and at other schools I've worked for years, and somewhat of the evolution of what they look like has maybe changed up and down a little bit. But um, typically here at Roanoke, I've been here for I think 11 or 12 seasons now. We'll run two sort of ID camps per year. One would be a 1 day one in the winter. That one's coming up here on Sunday, January 26th. And then we'll run a 2 or 3 day one in the summer, usually in June, just depending on event schedules. Um, and both have proven to be really highly effective ways for us to find players. I mean, I would say on any given year, at a minimum, half of our roster has attended a camp at some point here. Um, it's not to say it's the only way that we would recruit. We're tenacious to get out on the road as well and see players. But I do think it gives them uh, a good opportunity to be on campus and to interact with our staff. We do bring in other college coaches, like a lot of schools do, try to make the value proposition good for the players that attend. And then, yeah, we're hitting other schools' camps as well. Try to find like institutions. Just again, try to give those players the good value to their camp experiences, and also to try to find players for ourselves. And so, between myself and our assistant coaches, we're trying to get out to as many as we can to as are good tools to recruit.
Okay. Well, one thing that's a little unique, at least I feel, about your roster is for a D3 program, you've got a decent number of international kids on there. Uh, Talk to me about that. Is that typical for you guys? Is that something you look to do? How does that work?
Yeah, so we found a little bit of a niche like that. I always tell people, they're like, "Hey, what's your roster breakdown?" We'll carry between 28 and 32 players at Roanoke College. I mean, that I've stayed true to that almost every season I've coached here. The COVID and fifth years kind of changed it just a little bit for some time, but I like that number in that. Say it averages on about 30. You got three or four goalkeepers. You have two or three guys injured at any given point, just out of nature of the game. So you can always have 20 plus players to train, and it also leaves everybody um, uh, with purpose and intent inside the program. Um, as far as how the roster is made up, generally, I would say maybe about a third of our team is local, but that would be Maryland down to North Carolina local. Certainly, we're going after the best players here in Roanoke, but within a shorter drive to campus, 3 hours or so. A third from anywhere else in the United States. Again, I think we've been fortunate to have enough of a national reach in try to open some doors. We've got currently players from Connecticut, Colorado. We've had guys from Florida, sort of all over the country. And then maybe not a full third, but a quarter to a third international. And most of those have been sort of specific ways that they've gotten here. There's been some of them came from ties that I had when I was in the Division 1 game and did maybe a bit more international recruiting. So able to find some players. We've done well in Switzerland, more recently Sweden, and then we've had a couple others that come in different ways. Not the primary, only way that we recruit. Certainly not only looking for international players, but I do think between the three sort of pools that I just talked about, we're able to create a diverse roster that I think can bring us talent, but also bring the players' experience of the brotherhood. People from different backgrounds and different walks, and leads to hopefully some connection in ability on the field as well.
Okay. Well, one thing that's kind of exploded recently is the transfer portal. Is that something you've dipped your toe into at all?
Yeah, we always keep our eye on it. Again, I would say that I try to be very specific with the players that we bring here. I mean, I have learned early in my career that convincing someone to come to your college to play, if it's not the right fit for them, is a backfire. So it's more about finding the right ones. And so certainly in my time here, we've had transfers. Typically, they've been players that I was highly aware of or recruited really hard the first time out. Generally maybe chose a Division I school, and their experience didn't work out, how they expected potentially. And so those have been typically the transfers that we've been on, or gotten here a little bit more. I think we have two current, call them Division I transfers on the current roster. We just had another one enroll in January, just started this week. And so, we're in it, but it's not something where it's like our primary way of recruiting. I still do believe in, bringing in first year players and developing them over 4 years. And I think, I hope, and I think that still will be uniquely Division III as well. It is for sure here.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the school. Again, you're an alum. You've been there over a decade as coach. So if there's anybody to ask about the school, it's you. So what are some of the things that you find just are awesome about the school? Some things that stand out, maybe some things we wouldn't even know by going through the website.
Yeah, I mean, I think first off is like location wise, it's a great place to be. I mean, beautiful campus, set right at the edge of the Blue Ridge Mountains. So Appalachian Trail runs, 8 miles one way off of campus. But then the city of Roanoke has about 100,000 people in the entire, valley or area, and so you have a downtown urban setting on one side of campus, a couple miles, and you got the mountains and some of the best outdoor adventure type of activities on the other side. So it does give you, a bunch of things to do for the students. Um, the other thing I'd say about Roanoke College, again, biased as an alumni and as an employee and coach, but uh, I think like of the things that maybe the smaller liberal arts colleges do for their students across the board, I think Roanoke does a tremendous job of those things. And what would that be? I mean, you're talking smaller class sizes, individual attention from professors, but also just across the board, just relationships across the campus. I think are something that we pride ourselves on, and something that the college does really well. All in like. In reason to try to help our students develop as people, right? Pursue careers that they're passionate about, be prepared for those careers, and be confident and self-aware as they come out of this place. And so I think Roanoke does a great job of those things. Specific to the program, I mean, we're really, really fortunate with the facilities that we have. Um, Kerr Stadium was built in 2007, and it's an on-campus lit. Holds about, I think, 1,600 to 2,000 in seats, but it's kind of bowled out around the outside. So if there's overflow, it can fit whatever we need, and it sits basically right outside some dorms and on one side, and our campus center on the other, and now our new athletic center, which was built in 2016, on one side. And so, just a fantastic place to play. That athletic center that I'm speaking about is called the Krager Center, and was about a $55 million athletic center built, again, 2016, 2017, which, just a fantastic, aesthetically amazing place to be working in, but also like from a performance standpoint, it gives us everything we need between locker rooms and training rooms and, um, everything to perform. And so, yeah, we're really fortunate with that. We've hosted the Division III men's and women's Final Fours here, not this year, but the previous 2 years, and we're about to host it next year again. And so, obviously, we're proud that we were selected to be able to do that, and feel fortunate that we can play in that environment with the situation that we have.
Yeah, no, it's an awesome spot. Well, one of the things that can be challenging for student athletes coming in, especially new to college, is really balancing the demands of the classroom as well as being a collegiate soccer player. What kind of support systems does Roanoke provide for both on the field and off the field stuff for guys to be successful in the classroom as well as off the or on the pitch?
Yeah, so I think sort of the way we run it is twofold, where one is kind of worked out of our soccer office. We have like an academic monitoring program that myself and the assistant coaches will run, and essentially that's, gives us the opportunity to spend time with our players and help check in on how they're doing personally and then specifically academically. And that's sort of bi-weekly throughout the year. From that, we also have like a student learning center on campus that is open to any student, but we were able to, push our athletes, our players over there, for what they need. And that includes a writing center, tutoring opportunities as well in pretty much every subject. They can get a academic mentor if necessary. And so, a bunch of resources are on campus. Again, I think something that sort of small schools do well, and I think Roanoke does really well, is ability to try to provide resources to the students, academically so that they can be successful. Another thing that we have here is like a it's called place, which is an acronym, but it's essentially a place for call it career exploration, meaning like trying to prepare yourself for life after college. So there's a lot of work done here on campus for the students to prepare them for what will be, and both try to find out what they're passionate about, what their skill set lies to, and then also use our alumni network and our resources to make sure that they're employed or into graduate schools coming out of Roanoke. So I think those are kind of the two key things. But I mean, more than anything, our players, um, we'll task them with the challenges of balancing academics and soccer and social life as a positive in their experience. And so I'll always sell that, and part of the process is it's not an easy school here. You're going to have to work. Oh, certainly we're going to be here to support you, but there's no other way to grow than to be challenged a little bit. And I think that we have a good balance of those things in order to prepare our students.
Okay. Well, rewind back to October, heart of that conference season. Can you walk me through what does a typical week look like for a player in terms of winter practices, meals, games, classes, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so we're playing 18 games over 3 months. It's a lot of games in a short period of time, and I think any college coach would tell you you've done a million of these these interviews that it's probably too short of a time for the amount of games. So it is a lot of prepare, recover, play, prepare, recover, play. We typically play our league on Wednesdays and Saturdays. So once the ODAC starts, we'll be playing Wednesday nights and Saturdays or Saturday nights. So, a typical week is training Monday, Tuesday, play Wednesday, train Thursday, Friday, play Saturday, and then we'll give our usually 1 day mandated a week off on Sunday, typically. Um, we typically train in the afternoons in the fall season, so sort of a 4:30 to 6:30 or 6:30 to 8:30 time block. Sometimes switches depend on a couple things. But obviously, I think anybody thinking about playing college athletics and specifically college soccer, you're going to have to understand that time block that we have might not be all the time that is required of you in order to be successful. So if training's at 4:30 on the field, our team actually has an inside rule with the players where they've got to be 10 minutes early before anything that we start, and we'll usually run a meeting before practice to go over our training objectives. So say that meeting starts at 4:15, they're in the locker room at 4:05. If they got to get treatments or something like that in the training room, maybe they got to be 30 minutes to an hour early before that. So that turns into a 3:30, arrival for a 4:30 training. Now we might not be on the field for that full 2 hours, but if you are, you're going 3:30 to 6:30 at that point, and there could be something afterward, be it strength and conditioning, regeneration, or back into the training room. So yeah, again, I think that's a typical Monday, Tuesday would be classes throughout the day. They take 2 or 3 classes per day in about, and then training in the afternoon, evening, and then again matches on the Wednesdays and Saturdays, and yeah, so it's just a lot of time put in. The players would have to find time for their schoolwork before training, after training, and within the other breaks in their classes.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the team and the coaching staff. You mentioned the roster size, but what about the roster size of other coaches? Who else is there helping you out with the team, whether that's assistant coaches or other folks in the athletic department that help out with the team?
Yeah, so on our staff currently, we've got sitting to my right side right now, Matt Campbell. We've been really fortunate to get a run of great assistant coaches here. I've been really fortunate to have had some great people work here, and Matt's in his second year. Played in our conference at another school, and also worked at another school in our conference, so really familiar with our league and the Division III game as well. We also have a coach who works with our goalkeepers, who's sort of a legendary local coach named Shelley Blumenthal. Coach B is the longtime head coach at Blacksburg High School, has numerous state championships in Virginia high school soccer. And so he's been working with us for just over 2 years now as well with our goalkeepers. And so that's the main piece of our staff. Typically on normal seasons, we've had sort of a volunteer assistant graduate student with us as well. I'm hoping that we'll have one again next year. On typical years, we'll have some other former player who wants to get into coaching who will stick around and help us. And you know, good or bad, I've had to coach about against about 4 or 5 of my former players and coaches in our league and at different places over the years now. So it's been a good, place to try to help young coaches develop and move on. We've also got a great hallway, I'll call it, in terms of our support staff here, in terms of athletic training. Bailey Cox is our athletic trainer. She'll be with our team, every day in the fall and does a really good job with our guys. We have a strength and conditioning staff. Izzy works with our team, both in season and out, and does a phenomenal job as well. And then, just down the hallway, we have just tremendous people. I think, which is another, I like to say boast of Roanoke College, but like between athletic directors and assistant athletic directors and sports communications, media relations, those type of things. A lot of good people on the hallway to help support the players.
Great. Well, what about you as the head man? How would you describe kind of your style of coaching and the style of play you're looking to play there?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say just in terms of my style of coaching, I mean, I said lead towards servant leadership. If I was to define my leadership style, I mean, I do think it's a player's game, and I competitive as they come. I don't think anybody who gets into this, um, isn't. It's not 1A. It's 1A that you want to win, and that's what we're trying to do. And we have lofty ambitions with the program. I always say there's at Roanoke College, we have a basketball national championship in men's basketball and a lacrosse national championship men's lacrosse, and we don't have one in soccer. We've been to the final eight, and so for whatever the season is, we're going to set the ambitions very lofty, and we're going to work really hard to meet them. So, competitiveness is certainly in the DNA of myself and the program, but I'm also well aware that like player experiences is a big piece, and I do take pride in like my role in their development as people and moving them on, and that's one of my favorite things. You sort of right next to winning games is seeing our players go on and what they do in their lives. And certainly it's challenging when they're here, and there's conflict and there's work to be done, but the results of that have been good here, and it's one of the things I'm most proud of. So again, I think my role is to serve the players and the team with information and hard work and care and accountability and those type of things, so that they could be at their best, both individually, but then, more importantly, as a team. Um, Stylistically, if I look at my whole time at Roanoke and really at most of the schools that I've been at, like I'd say me lean, use the cliche phrase, a bit more possession oriented than maybe some other college programs. And I don't think there's just one way to play or one system to play necessarily, but possibly we've died in beauty in times in some of my years here, but we've also succeeded in it. I think maybe more recently, tried to play the fine line between the winning in the chaotic moments of college soccer and the transitional moments and the direct athletic play moments of the game, as well as maybe like sort of how I prefer the game. And so, maybe a little bit of a shift in some ways the past 5 to 7 years versus my first 5 to 7 years. But yeah, typically I would say like a Roanoke team would be comfortable with the ball at their feet, able to create goals in the run of play, but then still, hardworking as a more of a point than anything else, and gritty, and able to like sort of compete in all phases of the game, be it transition or restarts or defending, whatever the case may be.
Awesome. Well, really appreciate it, Coach. Going to leave you with one last question, and that is if you had any piece of advice or just one thing you could narrow it down to for anybody going through this recruiting process, what would that be?
Yeah, I mean, I think proactive communication is important, and then mostly it's a very fluid process. So it's tricky. I just think back to my own recruiting process. We talked earlier about both having been Division III players, and like it's just a process. And I see these kids going through the same thing I did, which is like, where do I fit in? Who wants me? What's the best fit? And the things that you think about, and then the things that you come to realize later. And so understanding when they're in the process, it's a fluid process. You got to stay with it, stay positive about it, stay proactive about it. Whatever that looks like, reaching out to coaches or not being too discouraged when you hear information that's not like exactly what you're looking for. Um, and then also I would say like just try to concentrate on best fit as much as you possibly can. And that's a hard thing to do when you're 16, 17, 18, I think sometimes. But I can almost promise from my experiences having done it and then coached so many players over the years that that is what you'll look back on at the end of the career. It won't be like the 8 months between you committing and getting to school and how many social media posts you put to say, this is where I'm going. It'll be what the 4 years were like that you were there and how you like enjoyed the training environment and your teammates in the school. And so if you can in any way either have somebody help you understand what might be the best fit holistically for you. I think try to gather that information if you can as you're going through it. And yeah, that'd be what I would say.
Couldn't agree more. Well, I really appreciate it, and they should be thankful they don't have to try to put their highlight tapes together on VHS. That's something they're going to be
Yeah, you
thankful
know
for.
this.
Well, hey, wish you the best of luck, Coach, and hopefully, the next time you play Catholic, we'll be on the right side of it at our place.
Always a battle. Yeah, and thanks again, and thanks for everything you're doing for the game. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Take care, Ryan.